everyone, and welcome to Training Thursday with the Stoplight Customer Success Team. My name's Cheryl, and I'll be joined with my colleague Amy, and together we're going to be your hosts for today's training session. So before we get started, we're going to go ahead and turn off our cameras so that you can focus on the presentation. All right, so the purpose of today's training is to review some key concepts and hierarchies and walk through an administrative perspective of the Stoplight user interface. So I'll be starting our session today with a quick overview of how Stoplight's platform can assist you and your organization with your API development needs. And from there, we'll review some key concepts within the platform. And then Amy, my colleague, will introduce you to the Stoplight Workspace user interface and review all the administrative features and settings in this workspace. All right, so let's take a quick look at some key features that can help you and your organization enhance your API development processes. Stoplight's API design features allows you to develop quality APIs with a collaborative approach to an API design philosophy. It helps you create and prototype your APIs using your intuitive visual editor for open API specifications, and you can create your API in line with industry best practices. Also, with the release of discussions, members can add comments, ask questions, and interact within the Studio interface. So discussions also integrates with popular task tools like Jira and Slack to help facilitate collaboration outside of the workspace as well. With Stoplight's API mocking features, you can instantly create a mock version of your API based on your openness API specifications. This allows you to visualize and get feedback on your API designs before spending time on the back-end service development. API mocking also allows your front-end client application developers, along with your back-end services development teams, to develop in parallel. With Stoplight's API documentation feature, you can provide a top-notch developer experience for internal and external consumers through automatically generated documentation based on your open API files. This will help internal and external users discover, learn, and integrate with your APIs quickly by publishing interactive API documentation, tutorials, and code samples that are always up to date. Stoplight's governance features allows you to govern your APIs at scale with an always in sync central repository of API designs, schemas, and API documentation. You can easily share, apply, and enforce standards across all of your API designs to provide consistency, reusability, and better governance throughout your API program. And you can utilize Stoplight's public style guides to leverage sets of curated API design rules from top companies around security and design themes. And using the proposals feature, you can see recent API design changes at a glance and keep track of changes across your Git connected projects. All right, before we get into the workspace, the tour of the workspace, we're going to discuss some key concepts and hierarchies that will help you better understand Stoplight's user experience. One of the important concepts to understand within Stoplight is the concept of rules. While workspace roles are focused on access for managing settings and changes at the workspace level, which is located in your members tab, projects and team roles are focused on the level of access within an individual project. I'm not going to dive too deeply into the specific descriptions and permissions for each of the workspace and the project roles at this time, but I highly recommend that you check out our documentation, because our documentation pages cover the roles and description permissions detailed, which will help you select appropriate roles for the users in your workspace. Workspace roles determine who can make changes to the global workspace settings, who can create and manage sharing and member settings for all of the new and existing projects, who can create and manage default style guides for governance for your API designs, and who can access and view projects within your workspace. Project roles determine who can make changes to and manage settings at the individual project level, who can manage member settings at an individual project, and who can access and view individual projects. So project roles are focused on access for managing settings and changes at an individual project level. All right, so now if we take a look at groups and teams, groups provide you a way to organize projects for easy navigation and maintenance. For example, you have the ability to separate public projects from internal projects, and you can also separate documentation projects from API projects. Teams, this is now the feature that allows you to manage users across the projects, and it allows organizations to easily manage which users have access to the Stoplight projects, as well as controlling project permissions. This simplifies the process of allowing users to collaborate on projects while giving administrators more security over access controls. All right, so your hierarchy begins at your workspace. So if you have, so I guess in there, you're going to have users and teams are users grouped together for easier management. And then you have projects and groups. Groups are a collective of projects stored together in a folder for easier management. And within your projects, you have APIs and style guides. And within your API projects, you'll have endpoints, models, schemas, documentation, and articles, along with applied style guides. So when you step back to the workspace level, the owners and admins of your workspace will have the ability to manage workspace settings, manage members, create and manage teams. Within your workspace, you'll see a list of the APIs and the style guide projects. And from your workspace, you'll also see and be able to create new projects. So as I mentioned in the projects that you can like they can be organized by groups for easier management. As an example, I shared previously the public groups versus the internal groups. And as you begin to edit individual APIs or style guide artifacts and documentation, you will then transition from the workspace user interface to the studio user interface. Your technical team and API design architects are likely to be spending a majority of their time in the studio user interface. So within the scope of a single project in Studio, you may have one or many API designs and open API specifications, models, and API documentation articles. And within a style guide project, you will have the ability to manage rules and functions for your style guides. So when you transition between the individual Stoplight projects, you will navigate from Studio back to the workspace where you can select a new project and then head back into Studio to edit those specific artifacts associated with that project. So today we're going to be focusing on the workspace user interface and how you administer your workspace. So now that we've completed a quick overview of the of Stoplight itself, the platform, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Amy, who will be conducting the tour of the Stoplight workspace from an administrative perspective. Take it away, Amy.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. So as we begin today, what I'd like to do is start by looking at our workspace before we've logged in. So this is a pre-authenticated view of what our workspace looks like. So a couple things I just want to point out here. First, we've got our landing page. This is a great way for you to be able to update your users who are visiting your site about maybe what's new, what's coming, how to navigate through your site. All of that information you can actually update here on your landing page. You'll also notice on the left-hand side, we have a list of a couple projects in groups. And what this is these are our public projects. So any project that is listed as public is accessible to someone who has not yet authenticated into your workspace. So they have the ability to click on the project and view the documentation about that project, learn a little bit more about the APIs and artifacts associated within that project. The other thing I wanted you to see is as we click on the sign in button, that's going to take us to our page where we have the ability to sign into the workspace or authenticate into the workspace. The big thing I want you to see here is that you have the ability to decide how you want to let your users authenticate. So this is kind of an idea of the different options that you have. There are more, but we'll get into how you can configure that as we delve into the workspace itself. So now let's look at our workspace now that we have authenticated. So you can see I'm officially logged in now. So this is the workspace that I get to see. Now, if you're following along in your own workspace, a little bit to know about my workspace. This is a professional workspace. So that's the plan we're in. And I am currently an owner of this workspace. So if you are following along and maybe you're seeing some differences between what I have access to and what you have access to, that's most likely related either to the plan or to the fact that I'm an owner and maybe you're not an owner within your workspace. But here you'll be able to see a lot of the different functionality. So if you need to adjust that within your own workspace, you'll have the ability to do that. So there's 3 different areas we're going to focus on today. We're going to talk through the tabs along the top of our workspace window here, so we understand what's in each one of those. Then we're going to go over and look at our quick access functions on the left-hand side, as well as how we can customize our quick access toolbar here. And then we'll wrap up the day by looking at the flyout menu down in the bottom left-hand corner. So let's get started. First, we're on our home page. So this is the landing page. You'll notice that it's the same page we saw before we had authenticated into our workspace. Again, we have the ability to update that, and we'll see where we can do that in the settings tab. But a great way to, again, communicate within your workspace, what's new, what's coming, how to navigate through. So we'll have the ability to update that here in a little bit. So now let's look at projects. In our projects, we'll see a list of all of the projects and the groups that we've created within our workspace. There's a couple things. If you have a long list of projects, you do have the ability to filter those out a little bit. So if you're looking for just your public projects or maybe private projects, you'll be able to filter that out. You can also search for a project by name. So you have that ability. You can also order your list based on some of the headers that you've got here. So you can click on those and reorder as well. Now you'll see we have a number of different groups that we've created. Those are the little file folders. And then underneath those, if we open up a group, we'll see a list of the projects associated with that group. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is on the right-hand side, you'll see the little pins. And these pins are going to align with what I have access to in my quick access toolbar over here. So if I want to add Cheryl's demo project to my quick access toolbar, I can pin that, and now you'll see that inside the group that it's in, it will be added to my quick access toolbar. This is a really great feature to allow your users to really have quick access or be able to focus on those projects that they're actively working in. This is individual for each user, so each user gets to set that up as they authenticate into the workspace. If I need to remove something, I simply unpin it, and then it will disappear from my quick access toolbar. So now let's click on one of our groups here, and we can learn a little bit more about it. So as we click on a group, we'll get some additional settings on the right-hand side. The overview is going to give us just that, an overview of the group. So we've got the group name, how many projects are associated with it, how many admins there are, any pending admins. If we click on the admins tab, this is where we have the ability to invite members to our group. We can adjust the visibility of this group if we have the rights, and we'll see any of the admins listed here. And then under settings, we have the ability to, again, if we have the rights, to update the group name, add a description to the group, change the group visibility, add an avatar if I want to, or based on rights, delete the group itself. So that's what we see as we click on a group. Now, if I move down to a specific project, I'll get additional information on the right-hand side as well, and this will be specific to this project. So we'll see in the overview tab, I'll still have the project name, but here's where I'll see the teams that are associated with this project. And we'll learn more about teams here in a minute. I'll also see information associated to this project. So how many APIs, how many articles, all of the different artifacts that might be associated to my project. If there's multiple versions, I will see those listed in here as well. And then in the bottom, based on my rights, I'll have access to edit the version, which will take me right into our studio interface to be able to edit the documentation or anything associated with the API within that project. I can also go directly to the docs and just review the articles and documentation about the project itself, or I can go into project settings, which will give me the rights to update the project, see a little bit more about the project, view the different versions associated with it, and also delete it if I have those rights. So the other thing we'll notice here, if we click on members, we'll see the information about the members associated with this project. So again, based on my rights, I can see the visibility. So this project happens to be internal, even though it's in a group that is public. I can see the teams associated with the project and the roles that any members within those teams have within the project. And then I get to see a list of each individual member and their role. So all that is listed for me right here, nice and easy to access. Now in the upper right-hand corner, you'll notice we've got the two buttons. We can create a new group. Very simple. We type in our group name, set the group visibility, add a description if we'd like, and save that. And that will create a new group that we can then move projects into or out of as we need to based on our use case. We also have the ability to create a new project. So if I click on that, that's going to allow me to create a project. I can create a blank project, or if I have associated any Git repos, I can use that. I just need to give the project a name, set the visibility, add it to a group if I'd like, and then create the project, and I'm off and going. So that kind of sums up what's in our project tab. So now let's move over to our teams tab. So this is where we can create teams and add members to those teams. Again, if we have a long list of teams, we can filter by all of the teams or just the teams that I am associated with. I can also search for a team by name, and I have the ability, like we saw before, to click on some of these headers to organize my list that way. Now, when it comes to setting up your teams, there's a lot of different ways you can go. Maybe you want to set up teams based on the role. So maybe you have a group of tech writers or a group of DevOps, and they have access to certain projects based on who they are. Maybe you work with a lot of external users and you want them to be in their own groups so that they only have access to the certain projects that you have granted them rights to. So you could create some teams based on, a company name and label those that way. You can also set up teams based on their role within a project. So in this case, we could have editors and viewers. So you know who has the right to do what within each team. So really, you can do any of those or all of them based on what you might need within your organization. As we click on a team, we'll see again on the right-hand side, we'll get some additional information. So again, we've got an overview of the team, who's the admin, any projects that that team is associated with. If we click on members, we can see all of the members that are in that team and their role. We also have the ability to invite new members to this team. And then in settings, again, based on our rights, we can update the team name, add a description, add a team avatar, or delete the team as needed. To create a new team, pretty simple. Just click on the new team button. We'll type in a team name, a description if you'd like. You'll see where you are. Some plans have a limit on how many teams you can have within your workspace. So you'll always know where you are to that limit as you're creating new teams, so you can keep track of that. So that really summarizes our Teams tab. So now let's look at members. Now, members is a list of just that, all of the members associated with our workspace. Again, we can filter our list a little bit. So if we're looking for a specific role and all the members associated with that, I can click on that role and that will pull up those specific members, or I can just select all and see everyone. If you're looking for someone by name, you can type that in and that will bring those matching names up to the top of the list. And again, you have the ability to order based on the column headers here as well. Now you'll see we do have in some of these tabs the ability to multi-select. So if I multi-select a couple different records here, you'll notice some new features will pop up along the top here. So I have the ability to change a role. So maybe there's a group of people that I want to change them from a viewer to a guest, for example. So I can select all of those users and just change their role by clicking on this button and selecting the appropriate role right from here. I also have the ability to delete members. So if there's a group of members you need to delete, you can select all those and delete those members. You can approve requests. You can see I've got 2 pending requests here. So if I wanted to approve those really quickly, I could select those and click the approve request button or deny the request. So either way, I have the ability to do that. As always, you can search by name. I think we talked about that. The other thing you've got over here is on the elliptical is you have, you can delete records just one at a time. If you see a name and you need to remove it, you can do that as well. And then to invite a member to your workspace, you can click on the invite members. You'll enter the member name or email address. You'll choose the default role, the default workspace role that you want them to have within the workspace. And you'll see there's a little definition here of what each one of the roles are. So you don't have to have those memorized as you're doing this. And then you'll send the invite. Now you can have multiple names selected as long as they're the same role. Then you can send out, just enter them all in once and send those invites out all in a group. So that's how we manage our members within our workspace. So now let's move over to settings. There's a lot that we get to cover here in settings. And really, settings is the place you're going to come when you're first setting up your workspace, because this is where you really get to define the look and the feel and how you're going to allow members to authenticate and what Git repositories you're going to allow members to access. So this is where you'll come to set all of that stuff up. So let's walk through these items. First thing, you can update your display name. So if you want to change what you see, your display name, you can make that change. You'll see that display name is listed up here, and I have an image or a logo added up here, but if I didn't, you would see my display name right in the upper left-hand corner of my workspace as well. Workspace identifier, if you're working with elements, you can associate elements to your workspace by using that identifier. You can allow or disallow join requests. So if you remember back to that unauthenticated window that we started with, I could have requested to join the workspace if I didn't already have access to it. If you don't want to allow users to do that, you can disable that. And then all join requests would come internally. So you would send out a link to invite people to your workspace. You also have the ability to enable or disenable sending the daily digest email to guests. Now, the daily digest email is just a summary of changes that have happened within projects. So it's not a detailed summary. You'll just kind of see some of the projects that were affected by changes. And guests are those users who have read-only access to your projects, and they should be from outside of your organization. So that's kind of what a guest role is. So if you don't really want them to see those daily digest emails, you can disable that, and then those would just not be sent out to your guests. You also have the ability here to set up approved email domains. So as you can see, I have one set up. And what this means is that anyone who navigates to my workspace who has a stoplight.io email address will be able to sign in and be automatically created as a viewer within my workspace. So it makes allowing users to access your workspace much easier and a little less maintenance from the admin side of getting those accepted. You won't have pending requests. They'll just be allowed to come in. And setting that up is really pretty simple. You just need to add the domain URL. Again, select the default role that you would want them to have, and then save that, and that would get that set up so you'd have multiple items, multiple email domains listed here. The next section we've got here is look and feel. So based on your plan, you may have the ability to remove stoplight branding. And if I click on that, you'll notice the stoplight branding will disappear from my browser tab, as well as from the bottom left-hand corner of my workspace. So if I come back and turn that back on, you'll see there it has reappeared, and Powered by Stoplight is down in the bottom left-hand corner. I also have the ability to adjust my theme. So you can see I have changed my theme to the dark theme. There's a number of preset themes in there that you can choose depending on what you like to look at. You also have the ability, if you have your own organizational colors that you'd like to use, you can populate those in here and then have a customized theme within your workspace. Favicon, you can add a favicon to your workspace, and that you'll see in the upper left-hand corner of your browser tab. So you can add that if you would like to. You can also add a logo. Here you can see I've got my logo added, and that's what I see in the upper left-hand corner of my workspace. Again, if you don't have a logo there, then you will just see your display name. And finally, in the look and feel section is where we can access our landing page. So this is where we can come to update that landing page or that home page that users will see as they access your workspace. It's written in Stoplight flavored Markdown, and there's a toolbar along the top to make creating that pretty simple. If you'd like, you can start by using the default template, which is what we saw when we first came into our workspace. So you can use that. You can make changes here. And you have the ability to preview any changes that you make before you save it. And once you save it, then that is what your users would see as they access your workspace, or anytime they hit on the home button to take them back to that main page. So again, really easy way to update your home screen and make it really personalized to your workspace. All right, moving on to our doc settings. Here we have the ability to enable or disable the try it or mock server features within your documents. So if you want that to be available right away, you can enable both of those. Maybe you want to get some stuff created and make sure everything's up and running on your back end. You can disable them for now and come in and turn them on later. Then we've got custom domains. So if you want to set up a custom domain, you can come in and do that. You just click in here, add your CNAME, and then users will be able to access your workspace via that custom domain. If you set up a custom domain, you also have the ability to add a couple additional things, analytics. So if you have Google Tag Manager, you can set that up in here. You can create your redirects. If you need to redirect anything, any links to make sure that they access appropriately, you can do that here. You have the ability to hide the sign-in button if you don't want people to be able to sign in if they're coming in using that custom domain. And you also have the ability to set up some localization. So do some translation within your workspace. This does require a third party. And once you get that set up, it's with localize. You would just add your project key in here, and then you'll be able to begin working on some of that translation within your workspace. And the final section we have here are our integrations. So a couple things, when we first logged in, when I clicked on that sign in button, there were, I think, 4 different options that we had to be able to authenticate into the workspace. This is where I can come and enable or disable those. So for example, maybe I don't want to let people logging in with their email address. So I can turn off and disable that and then save it. And then email would not be an option when I hit that sign in button in the unauthenticated screen. So that's easily done. Don't want to do that right now. But you also have the ability to connect your different Git repositories to your workspace as well, so that when you are creating projects, those can be stored within the appropriate VCS that you have. And based on your plan, you'll also have the ability to use some additional options for authentication like SAML and LDAP and Azure DevOps. So different features you have here. Lots of information, again, within the settings tab. Some of it you'll use right away. Some of it you may not come back to until a little bit further down the road once your workspace is a little bit more established. And that's totally fine. On any one of these, if you want to learn more about it, you can click on that little flyout menu. And in the upper right-hand corner, there's going to be a Learn More link. You can click on that, and that's going to take you right up to the documentation that talks specifically about that feature and function. It'll walk you through how to set it up. It will let you know about any catches or anything you need to be aware of, tips and tricks, just to help make sure that your configuration of that goes as smooth as possible. So great way to come in, learn more about any one of these functions if you need them down the road. So again, lots of great information in our settings tab. Probably one of the first places you'll come as you're creating your workspace. So let's move over to governance. Governance is where we can define the different style guides that we want to apply within our workspace. So if I click on that menu, you'll notice there are a lot of options in here. First, along the top, we're going to have our workspace style guides. So if you have gone in and created or imported any personal workspace or personal style guides that you've created, those would be listed here on top. And then we can scroll through and see all of the public style guides that are available as well. And you'll see the ones that I have enabled are highlighted in green and have the little check mark there. It's really easy to enable or disable. So I have just disabled the enforce HTTPS. I can re-enable it again just by clicking. If I want to learn more about a specific style guide before I enable it within my workspace, I can click the preview. Again, that's going to take me out to our API style book, where I can learn more about the rules associated with this style guide and delve into them a little bit more. So I have a good understanding of what those are used for and how they'll affect my workspace. So once I have all of the style guides that I want to have assigned to each one of my workspaces, I can just select those and click save. And then any new project that gets created will have those style guides applied to them. So as your developers and tech writers are working through the different projects, those style guides will show us anything that we might be missing when it comes to matching up to our style guides. Now, you do have the ability, if you'd like, to allow your admins and editors to disable style guides within their specific projects. So if you maybe have a number of style guides that you have applied to all of your projects that get created, maybe not all of those style guides apply to every single project. So if you would like, here you can allow your admins and editors to disable certain style guides if they don't apply to their workspace. Now, if that's not a feature you want your admins and editors to do, you can disable that, and then all style guides will apply to all projects as they get created. So leaving our governance tab and heading over to our activity tab, this is just our audit log. So we can come in, if you're looking for something specific, you can do some filtering here. Otherwise, this is going to be just what it is, a running audit log of your workspace. Next to activity is automation. For those of you who have connected your workspace to your Git repo, this is where you would see your webhooks and events would show up in here. So if you're seeing an issue or having problems, you can come into your automation tab, delve into what's going on, and hopefully get that resolved. And then the last tab is our billing tab. So this will give us a summary of our plan, some of our invoice dating. We'll also see where we sit in our seat usage, so members and guests, as well as our workspace usage, so our number of teams and projects. So we'll always know if we if we're starting to hit a limit, we can reach out and kind of up our member seats so we can maintain our members appropriately. So that covers all of the tabs along the top. So now let's head back to our quick access toolbar here on the left-hand side. So the first thing you'll notice that where we see our logo is clickable, and that will take us back home. So there's 3 different ways that you can get back to your main landing page or your home page. You can click the home button here. You can click your logo or display name in the upper left-hand corner, or you can click the home button right below the search feature right here. So either one of those will all take you back to your home space so people don't get lost too far deeply into your workspace. Next to that, you'll see a plus sign. This, if we click on this, allows us to create a project right from our quick access toolbar. And you'll remember this is the same screen we saw when we were in our projects tab and clicked create new project. This just gives us the ability to do it right here from quick access instead of having to come into projects and click on new project. We can do it right from our main screen here. The search feature, if you're looking for something specific within your workspace, you can type that in, and that's going to pull up anything that matches that within your workspace, and you can delve into those items right from here. We already talked about the home button. Explore is similar to search, except that maybe you don't know what you're looking for and you want to learn more about what's going on in your workspace. So Explore allows you to come in and kind of see all of the projects listed in one window, and you can delve into those projects to learn more about them. So for example, if I wanted to look at our Training Thursday documentation, I could click on that and delve into the different endpoints and all of the artifacts associated with that and see our documentation. And you can do that all from within the Explore window. Next to that is the proposals feature. So if you do have your workspace connected to a Get repo, then you would see the changes to each one of those different projects would show up here. And you'd have the ability from one screen to click into these and see those changes and just validate them if you'd like. So it's an easy way to kind of keep track of all of the changes happening within multiple projects, all kind of in one screen. Now below that, we've got our quick access links, which we walked through adding those by pinning them in our projects tab. So these are the things that I would spend the most of my time working on. So for example, if I click on one of these, this is going to take me into my documentation view to begin with. So I'll see the different articles associated with this project. I can delve into any of the APIs associated and learn more about each one of those right from here. Now, based on my role, you'll see you may also have some additional buttons up here along the top. I'm going to work backwards in this order, but first is the settings. So if I am an admin of this specific project, then I have the ability to get to the settings function right from here. We did the same thing when we were in our projects tab and clicked in the bottom right-hand corner to get into our project settings, but you can get to the same place either way. So here we'd see our different versions. If we had those, we could make changes right from here if we have rights to the settings tab from here. We also have the ability from here to share. So if we want to invite a new team to this project or a specific member, we can type that team name, member name, or email address in here. Again, based on rights, we can adjust the visibility of this project. We can see the teams associated, their roles, and then the individual members. So again, you don't constantly have to bop out of here and go into your projects tab. You can access a lot of that information right from within the docs view if you have those rights. The last button we'll see here, the highlighted button, is the edit button. And this is what is going to walk us from the workspace into our studio user interface. And here you can see there's a ton of information, really powerful tool when it comes to building your APIs and writing your docs. I'm not going to go into this because we just don't have enough time for that. But Cheryl did a great training just a couple weeks ago on the studio interface. So if you want to delve more into that, check out that training. I think she's going to post a link for us here really quick, but check out that training, and that's going to walk you through all the different functions within the studio user interface. But this is what it looks like when you first come in. And then to get back to your workspace, you can just click the Back to Workspace button. So now as we go home, the last thing we have in our quick access toolbar is the Invite to Workspace link. Again, an easy way to invite users without having to click on your members tab or be within a specific project. You can come right here, enter the member name or email address. Again, you'll choose their default workspace role here. And you can set that up and then send those invites out. Again, you can send it to one or multiple in one setting, just depends on how many people you want to invite. So that wraps up our quick access toolbar here on the left-hand side. Lots of great functionality there that make it easy to add new things to our workspace. So finally, let's wrap up by looking at our flyout menu. So first, we've got our account settings. If I want to come in here, update a username, change anything associated with that, disable receiving the Daily Digest email, I can do that individually based on rights. I can update a password or see any connected accounts that are associated with this. So I can do all of that right from that flyout menu. I also can view our product documentation. So I have access to all of the product documentation. If I'm getting stuck or I want to know more about something, I can come in here, just type in what I'm looking for. And so if I wanted to learn more about workspace roles that Cheryl was telling us about earlier in the presentation, I can just type in roles, and that's going to take me right to that site where I can learn more about the different roles and what they have access to, all right from within my workspace. I can also access the Stoplight blog and help documentation. So if I want to learn more about Stoplight, or if I'm having some issues getting something set up, I can check out either of those locations to learn more. I also can access the support. So if I have a paid plan, I have the ability to contact and open a case via the support portal. So if I click on that, if it's the first time I'm clicking on it, this is going to let me know that I'll receive an email to complete the setup of my online account creation. But once I've done that once and I have an account, I can just click here and that will give me the ability to log in to the support portal, view any tickets that my organization has opened a new ticket or case with the support team, as well as accessing additional information and knowledge from within the support portal. So it's a great tool. Highly recommend checking that out. You also have access to release notes. So if you want to see what's come out recently, it's all broken down by month. So you can click on that and learn more about the changes within the workspace that have happened, going back even to future or previous releases. So you can see all of that information by clicking on the release notes. And then finally is the roadmap. If you want to learn more about what's coming in the tool and what's being considered, you can click on that. Also through there, you have the ability to add your own feature requests. So if you have an idea or something that you think would help make your Stoplight workspace better or easier, you can definitely submit that and our product team will review that. So that kind of wraps up a tour of the workspace from an admin kind of perspective and all the different things you can do and access. So Cheryl, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Amy. So as a reminder, we did post a number of those helpful articles in the chat window. So if you have not had a chance to copy those and bookmark them, please feel free to do that now. As we wrap up, I'm going to take a moment to go over some of the Stoplight subscription plan options. So you can leverage a selection of software as a service subscriptions fully hosted by Stoplight from an API design, mocking, and documentation, as well as governance building blocks. So the Stoplight free plan allows you to begin exploring Stoplight's design first features, and it allows you to collaborate with up to 3 users on one project in your workspace. Moving to the Stoplight starter plan, your subscription includes 5 users. You can collaborate with up to 10 projects, and it unlocks the approved email domain and custom workspace domain features within your workspace. And you also have the ability to purchase additional user licenses as needed. By leveling up to the Stoplight's professional subscription plan, your plan includes 10 users with up to 100 projects, along with 20 teams and 50 guests. So again, you can purchase additional users as needed. With external guests, you have the ability to invite users as who are external to your organization, to your Stoplight projects, so that they can view your internal API design specifications and documentation articles from behind an authenticated session. The professional plan also unlocks some additional single sign-on options such as SAML and LDAP, and also some additional Git provider options such as Bitbucket Server, as well as Azure DevOps Server. It allows custom domain features within your workspace, which also allows you to use your host name to access your Stoplight hosted API designs and projects. And you can have access to a discussions feature that will help in collaboration with the design of your APIs. And lastly, Stoplight's enterprise subscription plan. Your subscription includes 25 users, unlimited projects, unlimited external guests, and unlimited teams. You gain the ability to access volume license discounts when purchasing additional users. And you also have additional account invoicing flexibility with custom pay terms. And finally, you have enhanced onboarding and training engagements with the customer success team. Yep, that's us. And the enhanced priority for your support cases. All right, so that wraps up our training session for today. So be sure to mark your calendars for the next Thursday's training session on April 13th. And typically the live trainings are scheduled the second Thursday of each month. So in the month of March, we just ask that you stay tuned to our website to find out some more information about that March webinar. And in the meantime, be sure to check out the Learn with Stoplight webinars playlist for recordings of all of the previous Stoplight training sessions. So if you're interested, and you can also find them in YouTube by searching Learn with Stoplight webinars. You can also search on a how-to playlist for short trainings on how to learn more about specific functions within Stoplight. So we're going to stay on for another minute or two to allow any additional questions that to be answered in the chat channel. And then just as a reminder, any questions that were posted with the answers, we will be posting them in our community Discord channel for your reference in the future. We thank you and have a great day.